So as we build trust, trust leads to better relationships and our audience becomes warmer, right? If you think of old school sales, you got to get your cold prospects to become warm to hot, hot to closed. There's kind of this funnel that people are going through over time where they're getting more familiar with your brand. When is the right time to then make the ask, or how's the best way to do that? To just go from these blog posts that we're putting out, do we put a sale at the bottom of every post? I don't think that's it. But what's the best way to then eventually, we got to get the cash register to ring, Amy. When do we actually do that?
So I'm a big fan of growing an email list. And let's say that and here's why. When you have an email list in your business, I look at that as one of the most important assets in your business. I always say the energy of your business, the revenue, the engagement, the relationships, the transactions, the energy of your business is directly tied to the strength of your email list. And the reason for that is if you have an email list and you really know how to engage your audience, they're excited to hear from you, they're opening up those emails, they are more likely to buy than anybody on social media. Also, if you build your business, you build your audience only on social media, you are building your business on rented land. At any time, Mark Zuckerberg can change that algorithm, and he has, and your business now operates differently and likely not as well as it was before. And so for me, I always teach my students, let's use social media to attract an audience, but let's bring them into your world by offering a lead magnet, a freebie, some kind of giveaway. Now, it might be a PDF where it's the top 10 questions to ask before you install an HVAC, or it might be something like a cheat sheet to help people get quick results. I'm always looking for quick results, but easy to digest. But you want let's say, let me back up. We call it a content upgrade. You write a blog post, and in that blog post, you link to a freebie, a content upgrade. So you link to a cheat sheet, a checklist, a quick video. People have to give their name and email to get this extra content. But when they do, now they're on your email list. And now you can create a relationship. And that is where you sell. You sell through your email list more than you ever sell through social media. And the email list, they're more loyal to you because you've been building a relationship and engaging with them. They're more likely to respond. I literally would not have the business I have today without an email list.
Yes, that's so good. Well, I love how you're talking about the relationship between what I would call the megaphone, which is your place that you go loud on social media, or this podcast as an example. So people listening to this podcast, we're adding value, we're teaching, we're not making an ask. I mean, you can listen to this podcast for free forever, and we're going to be your friends, and we're going to cheer for you if you never become a customer that pays us a dime. That's why we're here. We love helping business owners win, period. And you're going to hear an ad in a second that says, hey, to get this great free resource about marketing and some things that we're doing with Amy, text in 33444, keyword. Well, what happens when they do that is they give us their email, and then our email team makes sure that we continue to add value. We give them the resource, and then eventually they're going to hear about one of our live events. And that might turn into a lead that they talk to a sales advisor and they come to an event. Always serving all the way through, not being slimy about it, not being manipulative, but it's so important that we're adding value all along the way. You talked about people putting up their wall, and we're bringing down that wall, not so we can sucker punch them, but we can continue to serve them. So how do we make sure the pacing, as a business owner, you're thinking like, how far is too far and too fast to make an ask? How do we know when they're ready? If we're pulling them on these journeys from social media to an email, then what? Is the next month in the email, do we make the ask, or do we have to wait a full year? How do we kind of sort that stuff out?
The first thing you want to do is, like you just said, how do you sort that out? I would love for you to get on a whiteboard, and I want to see you really map it out. Somebody comes into your world from social media, and on social media, they hear that you have a blog post telling them how to get started with XYZ. They go to your blog. From there, reading the blog, getting so much value, you've got this freebie, this lead magnet that they're like, oh, that's exactly what I've been looking for. They opt in. Now they're on your email list. Now, from there, how many more times do you want to communicate with them before you make an offer? What offer would you make from somebody coming in from, let's say, a blog or from social media? And what needs to happen? Where else do they need to cross that invisible bridge? Like, what else do they need to know, be aware of, understand before they're ever ready to say, yes, I want to talk about buying from you, whatever that might mean. So I'm going to repeat that question one more time, because it's important. When you're creating free content, you're nurturing your audience, you're sending emails, you want to ask the question, what does my ideal customer need to know, understand, be aware of, or believe before they're ever ready to take out their wallet and spend money with me? It might be a mindset shift, a strategy they need to understand, a step they need to take, whatever that might be. But usually it's a few different pieces of content, a blog, a video, a few different podcast episodes before you're ever offering something in terms of what they could buy. So there is more than just social media, read a blog, opt in, sell. There's got to be some nurture time in there, whether it be 2 to 3 emails, maybe it's a video you send them, but you do need to nurture them. And that's where you need to decide what needs to happen there. I will tell you, it's not 6 months down the road. It probably isn't 3 months down the road. Just think, how can I get them past that invisible bridge before I make an offer?
You said something in there that I want to make sure we don't miss. And it was kind of nested in that question. My ideal customer.
Yes.
Had you asked me 10 years ago, what's the ideal customer for EntreLeadership? I would have kind of had that golden retriever head tilt look like, what do you mean by that? Leaders everywhere. No business owners and leaders and pastors. And it was just anybody who will buy. So
and that is so normal, right? We see that in the beginning, it's confusing.
So why is it important, and how do we figure out who our ideal customer is?
Yes. So it's important because when you're creating content, when you're building your email list, when you're putting together your offers, you must know who you're talking to. And when you know who you're talking to, what I mean by that is you're thinking of your ideal customer. You must know what they want, what they need, what their challenges are, their pain points, their desires. You really do need to know your audience inside and out. Now, I say that, and anyone just starting out, they're like, whoa. How would I even figure that out? The challenge here is it takes some time. It takes years to really dial it in, although right now you could make some assumptions, some educated guesses based on what you know about your audience from engaging with them. So you just start. That's what you do when you're developing your ideal customer. You just start. What we do is we just start with bullet points, like who do we think they are? And we just start kind of naming this person or kind of shaping them into a real person. And then from there, we kind of experiment and say, okay, if we think this person, like for me, if I think my ideal customer is somebody who has expertise, knowledge, and know-how, and they want to stop going from one-on-one customers to one-to-many, meaning create a digital course, if I think that's who my audience is, and I think they're still in corporate, then I might put out some lead magnets, some blog posts, some podcasts about how to move from corporate into your own world and see how it's received. So your content will help you shape who it is you're marketing to. There's a little bit of trial and error here, but first just sit down and think, who do I want to serve? Who do I have access to? Who is my ideal customer? And then from there, things start to take shape.
I want you to say more about the fear that comes up when we choose to focus and the fear of drawing the box too narrowly. So in EntreLeadership, our ideal customer is business owners between 2 and 200 employees. And back in the day when we didn't have that clearly defined, we had big customers sending us big checks from companies with thousands of employees. And so you can imagine the tension in the room when we start saying, okay, we're going to define this as 2 to 200, but what about these big companies? Or what about the companies that don't have employees yet? And there's this fear that you're going to miss out on the opportunity if you get really specific on this is who our customer is, because it means everybody else maybe is not that customer.
Yes. My students really struggle with this one because they want to serve everybody. They have the hugest hearts and they're like, I don't want to leave anybody out. And here's what happens. When you want to serve everybody and you don't dial it into who specifically you serve, you're casting this huge wide net with big holes in it. So you're literally not really landing anywhere with that. You're not grabbing anybody's attention because it's watered down. It's way too big, so people cannot resonate with your messaging or who you actually are serving. And so they believe, oh, well, she's not for me because they can't even see themselves in your marketing. So for me in my business, about, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, I made the decision to say that I serve coaches, consultants, teachers, educators who want to create a digital course. Because my business, like I said, is very simple. I don't have a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of moving parts. I teach people how to grow an email list, how to create a digital course, and how to launch online. And so from there, let's say you have a mom and pop shop, a t-shirt shop in a seaside town, and you want to get more people in your door. I know how to help those people, but I needed to narrow down who I serve with my products. So I'm not necessarily what I sell in my business a perfect fit for them. And I had to be okay with that. But here's why I finally got behind it. I knew that my business would grow, my audience would grow when people could see themselves in my messaging and in my stories. That's the magic that I think it's a hard thing to wrap your head around, that you go smaller, your business gets bigger.
Well, and you become known as the person in that space who is for those people, and those people hang out with those types of people. And so you get this viral word of mouth thing going on when people go, hey, this is our tribe leader. This is our person, because they're being the champion of the things that we deal with. And what we found, Amy, I'm sure you found this too, the people who are 1 degree outside of your target still show up and get value. They still become customers. So it's not necessarily you have to cut all that off, but when you don't focus with your marketing, like you said, the stories you're telling are all over the place and nobody can relate to it.
Exactly.